Yeah. Tired as fuck. But it's okay. I'm gonna read about the history of education on Wikipedia. Shout out Wikipedia, guys. Support Wikipedia, please. Um, the history of education, not to be confused with the journal History of Education Quarterly. Oh wow, it's like a fucking academic journal. Wait, it's kind of cool. All right, reading in 3, 2. Should I make the text larger? If I make it, oh fuck that, no, standard, and then the content is as wide as possible for your browser window while saying I have a small browser dick. Okay. Ah. The history of education extends at least as far back as the first written records recovered from ancient civilizations. Historical studies have included virtually every nation. What, like even nations that like fucking died? History of Western. The earliest known formal school was developed in Egypt's Middle Kingdom under the direction of Keti, treasurer to Netanyahu Metnuhotep. He's a fucking Hotep nigga. Mentuhotep II. In ancient India, education was mainly imparted through the Vedic and Buddhist learning system, while the first education system in ancient China was created in the Xia dynasty. In the city-states of ancient Greece, most education was private, except in Sparta. For example, in Athens during the 5th and 4th century BC, aside from 2 years military training, the state played little part in schooling. The first schools in ancient Rome arose by the middle of the 4th century BC. I do forget that in the past that there were genuinely people who were birthed without education, and like education was very much like a class thing. I mean, it still kind of is, but obviously since education is a lot more accessible, it's like a weird, it's kind of like the basis of our society or civilization, but also like a lot of people don't really at least I would say like public education or like the idea of formal education. In Europe, during the early Middle Ages, the monasteries of the Roman Catholic Church were the centers of education and literacy, preserving the Church's selection from Latin learning and maintaining the art of writing. Oh, the Church, the monopoly of the Church. In the Islamic civilization that spread all the way between China and Spain during the time between the 7th and the 19th centuries, Muslims started schooling from 622 in Medina, which is now a city in Saudi Arabia. Wow. Schooling at first was in the mosque, mesquite, mesjid. Sorry, I'm not gonna crash out, I promise. Masjid in Arabic, but then schools became separate in schools next to mosque. Ooh, that separation between church and state. I guess technically not state, but like church and education, whatever. You know what I fucking mean. Modern systems of education in Europe derive their origins from the schools of the High Middle Ages. Ooh, the High Middle Ages. It's when less people were dying, less people were getting pelted by shit in the street. Most schools during this era were founded upon religious principles with the primary purpose of training the clergy. The clergy, I don't know why I say clergy. Many of the earliest universities, such as the University of Paris, founded in 16... what? Did I just say? 16 what? Founded in 1160, that's how you say that, had a Christian basis, of course. In addition to this, a number of secular universities existed, such as the University of Bologna? Bologna? What the fuck? Why does this look like some fucking Masonic bullshit? University of Bologna, founded in 1088, the oldest university in continuous operation in the world, and the University of Naples Federico Federico II, founded in 1224, in Italy, the world's oldest state-funded university in continuous operation. Wow. This is the actual state-sponsored education. We love state-sponsored education over here. In Northern Europe, this clerical education was largely superseded by forms of elementary schooling following the Reformation. Herbart developed a system of pedagogy widely used in German-speaking areas. Mass compulsory schooling started in Prussia by around 1800 to produce more soldiers and more obedient citizens. Yikes. That's not who that's kind of, I guess, the point of your education in a civilization, but the way it produced more soldiers and more obedient citizens. After, maybe I'm too American brained. After 1868, reformers set Japan on a rapid course of modernization with a public education system like that of Western Europe. In Imperial Russia, according to the 1897 census, literate people made up 28% of the population. Jesus fucking Christ. It does not seem like a lot. There was a strong network of universities for the upper class, but weaker provisions for everyone else. Vladimir Lenin, in 1919, proclaimed that the major aim of the Soviet government was the abolition of illiteracy. A system of universal compulsory education was established. Millions of illiterate adults were enrolled in special literacy schools. Whoa. Damn. When authoritarianism makes you go to school. Let's see, how long is that? Okay. Let's see. I mean, India's impact. Oh shit, this might be kind of long. Oh god. I think I could read through all of it though. I think I could read through this section. Education in Ancient Civilization. Okay. Further information. History of writing in ancient higher learning institutions. Okay. Middle East. The earliest known forms I'm gonna kill myself. The earliest known formal school was developed in Egypt's Middle Kingdom under the direction of Kheti, treasurer to Mentuhotep II. In Mesopotamia, the early logographic system of cuneiform. Am I saying that right? Cuneiform, right? Based cuneiform. Cuneiform. Okay, system of cuneiform script took many years to master. Thus, only a limited number of individuals were hired as scribes to be trained in writing. Oh god, scribes, bro. Imagine your whole job just literally like copying so much text. I mean, seems nice actually. Only royal offspring and sons of the rich and professionals, such as scribes, physicians, and temple administrators, were schooled. Most boys were taught their father's trade or were apprenticed to learn a trade. Girls stayed at home with their mothers to learn housekeeping and cooking and to look after the younger children as they should. No, I'm kidding. Later was a syllabic. Later was a syllabic script. Later Oh my god. Later, when a syllabic script became more widespread, most of the Mesopotamian population became literate. Later, still in Babylonian times, there were libraries in most towns and temples. An old Sumerian proverb averred? What is this word? What is this word averred? State or assert to be the case. An old Sumerian proverb averred, he would excel in the school of the scribes, must rise with the dawn. Oh, how am I? Do I have fucking dyslexia? He who would excel in the school of the scribes must rise with the dawn. Kind of based. Kind of want to write that down a little bit. That's kind of vibey. That's kind of vibey. Hold on. I'm writing this down. He who would excel in the school of scribes must rise with the dawn. History of education. Cool. There arose a whole social class of scribes, mostly employed in agriculture, but some as personal secretaries or lawyers. Women, as well as men, learned to read and write. And for the Semitic Babylonians, this involved knowledge of the extinct Sumerian language and a complicated and extensive syllabary. Vocabularies, grammars, and interlinear translations were compiled for the use of students, as well as commentaries on the older texts and explanations of obscure words and phrases. Massive archives of texts were recovered from the archaeological context of old Babylonian scribe schools known as Edibas. Edibas? And Edibas is a scribal school for the Sumerian language. Edibas. So, like, niggas would literally just go to school to, like, because they were learning about history and they were learning about language. Was there math schools? Like, did they really just not have to worry about, like, learning math and shit? Fucking lucky them. Early schools known as Edibas, through which literacy was disseminated. The Epic of Gilgamesh, an epic poem from ancient Mesopotamia, is among the earliest known works of literary fiction. The earliest Sumerian versions of the epic date from as early as the 3rd dynasty of Ur. Shout out the Epic of Gilgamesh. I've never read it, but I mean, shout it out. Oh my god, shit's on like a slab. Okay. Ashurbanipal. I think that's how you say that. Ashurbanipal. Stop. Ashurbanipal, a king of the Neo-Assyrian Empire, was proud of his scribal education. His youthful scholarly pursuits included oil divination, mathematics, reading and writing, as well as the usual horsemanship, hunting, charity, soldierliness, craftsmanship, and royal decorum. What's the difference between horsemanship and chariotry? So this is horseback riding, and then this is using 2 horses on a little chariot. Okay. Soldierliness. What the fuck? Craftsmanship and royal decorum. During his reign, he collected cuneiform. Am I saying that right again? Sorry, I totally forgot. This is not a word we use anymore. Oh my god. Cuneiform. That's how you say it. I was like, what the? How the fuck do you say this? During his reign, he collected cuneiform texts from all over Mesopotamia, and especially Babylonia, in the library of Nineveh. the first systemically organized library in the ancient Middle East, which survives in part today. Wow. How do you guys think ancient libraries were like? I think they're probably more packed than libraries are today, to be honest, I feel like. In ancient Egypt, literacy was concentrated among an educated elite of scribes. Only people from certain backgrounds were allowed to train to become scribes in the service of temple, pharaonic, and military authorities. The hieroglyph system was always difficult to learn, but in later centuries was purposely made even more so, as this preserved the scribe's status. Literacy remains an elusive subject for ancient Egypt. Estimations of literacy range from 1 to 5% of the population, based on very limited evidence to much higher numbers. Generalizations for the whole country, even at a given period, inevitably mask differences between regions and, most importantly, between urban and rural populations. They may seriously underestimate the proportion of the population able to read and write in towns. Low literacy estimates are a regular feature of 19th and 20th century attitudes to ancient and medieval societies pre Reformation. I'll be honest, I kind of dissociated reading like that last portion. You guys will understand that. In ancient Israel, the Torah, the fundamental religious text, includes commands to read, learn, teach, and write the Torah, thus requiring literacy and study. In 64 AD, the high priest caused schools to be opened. Emphasis was placed on developing good memory skills in addition to comprehension oral repetition. For details of the subjects taught, see History of Education in Ancient Israel and Judah. Although girls were not provided with formal education in the yeshiva, what the fuck is the yeshiva? Is that like is a traditional Jewish education institution? Okay. They were required to know a large part of the subject areas to prepare them to maintain the home after marriage and education. The children, to maintain the home after marriage and educate the children before age 7. Of the Torah? You got to know the Torah before age 7, my nigga? Jesus Christ. Despite this schooling system, it would seem that many children did not learn to read and write, because it had been estimated that at least 90% of the Jewish population of Roman Palestine in the first centuries AD could merely write their name or not write and read at all. God damn. Or that literacy rate was about 3%. Jesus Christ. Motherfuckers really don't fuck with education like that. I mean, it is kind of boring a little bit. I'm gonna be honest. Education is a little boring. In India's impact to education. In ancient India, religious learning was mainly imparted through the Vedic and Buddhist religious learning systems. Sanskrit was the language used to impart the Sanskrit tradition. Pali was the language used in the Buddhist education system. In the Vedic system, a Brahman male started his religious to 12, whereas in the Buddhist system, the child started his education at the age of 8. Damn, bro. The main aim of education in ancient India, the main aim of education in ancient India was to develop a person's character, master the art of self-control, bring about social awareness, and conserve and take forward ancient culture. Based. The Buddhist and Vedic systems have different subjects. In the Vedic system of study, the students were taught the 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Arthavarta. Artha, Artha, Atharva Veda. I swear I'm gonna kill myself. Okay. They were also taught the six Vedangs. Okay. I'm not this retarded, I promise. They were also taught the six Vedangas: ritualistic knowledge, metrics, exetics, grammar, phonetics, and astronomy, the Upanishads, and more. What the okay, what is exetics? Exegetics is the science or study of critical interpretation, specifically the methodological analysis used to derive meaning from texts, most commonly scriptures, literature, or philosophy. What the fuck, exegetics? And then what is the Upana? Each of a series of Hindu sacred treaties. Okay. Oh wait, am I saying it right? Upanishads. 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 Okay, it's even dumber. Okay. Sanskrit and Vedic learning. In ancient India, religious traditions were imparted and passed on orally rather than in written form. Education was a process that involved three steps. The first was Shravana, which was the acquisition of knowledge by listening to the Shrutis. The second was Manana, or Manana, reflection, wherein the students would think, analyze, and make inferences. The third was Nidhi, Nidhyasana. The third was Nidhyasana, in which the students would apply the knowledge in their real life. Based. This is how you do fucking education right there. During the Vedic period, from about 1500 BC to 600 BC, Sanskrit learned. Sanskrit learned. Sanskrit learning in the Indo-Aryan society of northern India centered on the Veda, hymns, formulas, incantations. They were recited or chanted by priests of Vedic tradition, and later Sanskrit texts and scriptures. Vedic learning included proper pronunciation and recitation of the Veda, the rules of sacrifice, grammar, and derivation, composition, uh, versification, and meter. An understanding of secrets of nature, reasoning, including logic, the sciences, and the skills necessary for an occupation. Who was the first nigga to train someone? How did he get did the first nigga who did something just do it terribly, and then probably the second nigga he trained after started doing it, and he was like, wait, I can do this shit way better and teach this shit way better. Some medical knowledge existed and was taught. There are mentions in the Veda of the Veda of herbal medicines for various conditions or diseases, including fever, cough, baldness, snake bites, and others. Wait, what the fuck? Wait, of herbal medicines for various conditions and diseases, including fever, okay, fair, cough, okay, fair, baldness. Niggas, bro, since the dawn of time, niggas have been trying to solve baldness, bro. Just let that shit fall off, bro. It's okay to be bald, bro. The oldest of the Upanishads, shads. Is that how you? I completely forgot how to say it. The Upanishads, right? Upanishads. The oldest of the Upanishads date from around 700 BC. The Upanishads are considered as wisdom teachings, as they explore the deeper and truer meaning of sacrifice. Ooh. These texts encourage an exploratory learning process where teachers and students were co-travelers in the search for truth. The teaching methods used reasoning and questioning. Nothing was labeled as the final answer. See, that's what's so cool about like because education, there is somewhat this aspect of if not religiosity, but like ritual, right? Like like studying is a form of ritual almost, where you're constantly going over concepts and text, and like that it is kind of cool to kind of see the religious foundation within education, now that education is so secular within our society now, honestly. And I love that, yeah, like it's all about reasoning and questioning. It's not about having like a defined answer, right? It's all about understanding. It's not about like it's not inherently about like systematic, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Whatever. The the Gurukula system of education supported traditional Sanskrit residential schools of learning. Um, Typically, the teacher's house or a monastery in the Gurukul system. So okay, I totally read that. Okay, the Gurukula system of education supported traditional Sanskrit residential schools of learning, typically the teacher's house or a monastery. That's what it's trying to say. Sorry. In the Gurukul system, the teacher, guru, and the student, Sisya, Sisya? Yes, the student, Sisya, were considered to be equal even if they belonged to different social standings. Students from well-to-do families paid Guru, Guru Dakshina, paid Guru Dakshina, a voluntary contribution after the completion of their studies. Guru Dakshina, let me just see if I'm saying this right. Guru Dakshina? Ancient Indian. Okay. Actually, I'm not gonna. Yeah, no. They didn't give me a little pronunciation prompt. I'm not gonna go on a whole search. Guru Dakshina is a mark of respect by the students towards their guru. It is a way in which the students acknowledge, thank, and respect their guru, whom they consider to be their spiritual guide. At the Gurukuls, the the teacher imparted knowledge of religion, scriptures, philosophy, literature, warfare, statecraft, Ayurveda, astrology, and mythological history. Ayurveda, that's like Eastern medicine, right? Is an alternative Eastern, yeah. Shout out Dr. K. The corpus of Sanskrit literature encompasses a rich tradition of poetry and drama, as well as technical, scientific, philosophical, and generally Sanskrit religious texts. Though many central texts of Buddhism and Jainism have also been composed in Sanskrit. Two epic poems formed part of ancient Indian education. The Mahabharata, part of which may date back to the 8th century BC, discusses human goals, purpose, pleasure, duty, and liberation, attempting to explain the relationship of the individual to society and the world, the nature of the self, and the workings of karma. The other epic poem, Ramayana, is shorter, although it has 24,000 verses. Damn. Yeah, it's definitely short. It is thought to have been compiled between 400 BC and 200 AD. The epic explores themes of human existence and the concept of dharma, Buddhist education. In the Buddhist education system, the subjects included Pitakas, Vinana Pitaka. It is a Buddhist canon that a canon. Wait, Buddha. There's like canon and like non-canon for like Buddhism or some shit. It is a Buddhist canon that contains a code of rules and regulations that govern the Buddhist community residing in the monastery. Wait, where are these Buddhist OVAs? I want like non-canon like Buddhist OVAs. What the fuck? The Vijnana Pitaka is especially preached to Buddhist monks, Sangha, to maintain discipline when interacting with people and nature. Whoa. The set of rules ensures that people, animals, nature, and the environment are not harmed by the Buddhist monks. That's sweet. That's actually really sweet. It is divided into, sorry, I'm like fucking reading over these. The Sutta Pitaka. It is divided into 5 nyakas. Niggas? It's divided into 5 nyakas. It is divided into 5 nyakas collections. It contains Buddha's teachings recorded mainly as sermons. Abhidhamma Pitaka. Abhidhamma Pitaka. It contains a summary and analysis of Buddhist teachings. An early center of learning in India, dating back to the 5th century, was Taxila, also known as Takshashila. Okay. Taxila, and then Takshalila. Which taught okay. Sorry. Which taught that the Trey Vedas, and the 18 accomplishments. As you guys can see, my wherewithal for reading is reaching a limit. It was an important Vedic / Hindu and Buddhist center of learning from the 6th century BC to the 5th century AD. Damn, that seems like a long time. Another important center of learning from the 5th century CE was Nalanda. What is CE again? It's Koch era, CE, BC, Common Era, before Common Era, and then the Common Era. 5th century CE was Nalanda. In the kingdom of Magadha, Nalanda was a well-known Buddhist monastery. Nalanda was well-known Buddhist monastery. Is that a typo? Was a well-known Buddhist monastery. That's why I switched it up. What the fuck? Scholars and students from Tibet, China, Korea, and Central Asia traveled to Nalanda in pursuit of education. Vikramashila was one of the largest Buddhist monasteries that was set up in the 8th to 9th centuries. China. Okay, China, Greece, Rome. Okay. China. Sorry, I'm just checking the I'm checking your mom's pussy. Okay. According to legendary accounts, the rulers of Yao and Shun established the first schools. The first education system was created in the Zhou dynasty, 2076 to 1600 BC. During the Zhou dynasty, the government built schools to educate aristocrats about rituals, literature, and archery. The fuck? Niggas needed to know how to shoot a bow and arrow, I guess? All right. During the Shang dynasty, 1600 BC to 1046 BC, normal people, not like those fucking aristocrats, not like those coastal elites, am I right? No. Normal people, farmers, workers, etc., accepted rough education. At that time, aristocrats' children studied in government schools. Normal people studied in private schools. Government schools were always built in cities, and private schools were built in rural areas. Government schools paid attention to educating students about rituals, literature, politics, music, art, and archery. Like, it seems so out of place. Like, I can see, like, okay, rituals, fair, maybe a little inappropriate for my fucking secular educational style, but fine. You want to teach about rituals, literature, that's important, politics, that's important, music and art, like, culture and stuff. And then just archery. Like, I guess maybe you really did need to learn how to shoot a motherfucker. Private schools educated students to do farm work and handworks. During the Zhao dynasty, 1045 to 256 BC, there were 5 national schools in the capital city, Pyongyang, an imperial school, located in a central location, an imperial school located in a central location, and 4 other schools for the aristocrats and nobility, including Shengjiang, Shengsong, the schools mainly taught the 6 arts: rites, music, archery, charioteering, calligraphy, and mathematics. Oh shit, the art, mathematics as an art. Rites? I'm guessing these are like the rituals, a religious or other solemn ceremony or act. Okay, yeah, it's a fucking ritual. Okay, according to the Book of Rites, at age 12, boys learned arts related to ritual, i.e., music and dance, and when older, archery and chariot driving. Girls learned ritual, correct deportment, skill production, and weaving. I was going to make a really inappropriate joke, actually. I'm not going to say it. It was during the Zhao dynasty that the origins of native Chinese philosophy also developed. Confucius, 551 to 479 BC, founder of Confucianism. Oh, really? Was a Chinese philosopher who made a great impact on later generations of Chinese and on the curriculum of the Chinese education system for much of the following 2,000 years. Jesus fucking Christ. Later, during the Qin dynasty, I actually never knew if it's the Jin dynasty or the Qin dynasty. I'm pretty sure it's the Jin dynasty. Later, during the Jin dynasty, 246 to 207 BC, a hierarchy of officials was set up to provide central control over the outlying areas of the empire. To enter this hierarchy, both literacy and knowledge of the increasing body of philosophy were required. In quotations, ... the content of the educational process was designed not to engender functionally speaking skills, but rather to produce morally enlightened and cultivated generalists. Whoa. Whoa, dude. Look at the fucking these elites, man. During the Han Dynasty, 2006, that's not how you say that. 26. No, that's not. Okay. During the Han Dynasty, 206 and 221 AD, boys were thought ready at age 7 to start learning basic skills in reading, writing, and calculation. In 124 BC, the Emperor Wudi established the Imperial Academy, the curriculum of which was the 5 classics of Confucius. By the end of the Han Dynasty, 220 AD, the academy enrolled more than 30,000 students. Damn. Boys between the ages of 14 and 17 years. However, education through this period was a luxury. Damn. I mean, 30,000 niggas in a school. I mean, that's pretty based. The 9-rank system was a civil service nomination system during the 3 kingdoms and the northern and southern dynasties in China. Theoretically, local government authorities were given the task of selecting talented candidates, and then categorizing them into 9 grades depending on their abilities. In practice, however, only the rich and powerful would be selected. The 9 rank system was eventually superseded by the imperial examination system for the civil service in the Sui dynasty. Damn, this nigga's had a lot of dynasties, bro. All right, on to Greece. Oh, Greece. Ugh. In the beautiful city states of ancient Greece, most education was private, except in Sparta. For example, in Athens, during the 5th and 4th century BC, aside from 2 years of military training, the state played little part in schooling. Anyone could open a school and decide the curriculum. Parents could choose a school offering the subjects they wanted their children to learn at a monthly fee they could afford. Most parents, even the poor, sent their sons to schools for at least a few years, and if they could afford it, from around the age of 7 until 14, learning gymnastics, including athletics, sport, and wrestling. Oh god, that Greek wrestling. Music, including poetry, drama, and history. That's very interesting to include history and drama within the category of music. I mean, to be fair, they are saying gymnastics and then they include like wrestling and sport. Like, so it's not necessarily, but like, that's kind of interesting how they, whatever. Um, uh, Learning gymnastics, music, and literacy. Girls rarely received formal education. Why wouldn't they? At a writing school, the youngest students learned the alphabet. Why did they just? That's such a funny sentence to just throw in there and then just like not talk more about it. Girls rarely received formal education. Anyways, at writing school, the youngest students learned the alphabet by song, then later by copying the shapes of letters with a stylus on a waxed wooden tablet. Whoa. After some schooling, the sons of poor or middle class families often learned a trade by apprenticeship, whether with their father or another tradesman. By around 350 BC, it was common for children at the schools in Athens to also study various arts such as drawing, painting, and sculpture. The richest students continued their education by studying with sophists, from whom they could learn subjects such as rhetoric, mathematics, geometry, natural history, politics, and logic. Some of Athens' greatest schools of higher education included the Lyceum, so-called para- peripatetic school founded by Aristotle of Stagera, Sta- Stagera, and the Platonic Academy, founded by Plato of Athens. The educational system of the wealthy ancient Greeks is also called Padie. In the subsequent Roman Empire, Greek was the primary language of science. Advanced scientific research and teaching was mainly carried on in the Hellenistic side of the Roman Empire in Greek. The education system in the Greek city-state of Sparta was entirely different. Designed to create warriors with complete obedience, courage, and physical perfection. At the age of 7, boys were taken away from their homes to live in school dormitories or military barracks. They were taught sports, endurance, and fighting, and little else, with harsh discipline. Most of the population was illiterate. That's so fucking funny. I'm sorry. The Spartans just being these fucking barbaric, illiterate fucking creatures. Rome. Okay. Rome. The first school in ancient Rome arose by the middle of the 4th century BC. These schools were concerned with the basic socialization and rudimentary education of young Roman children. The literacy rate, the, the literacy rate in the 3rd century BC had been estimated as around 1 to 2%. Maybe I do have fucking dyslexia, who knows? There are very few primary schools or accounts of the Roman educational process until the 2nd century BC, during which there was a proliferation of private schools in Rome. It's also because I just haven't eaten in a while. At the height of the Roman Republic and the later Roman Empire, the Roman educational system gradually found its final form. Formal schools were established, which served paying students very little in the way of free public education, as we know it can be found. Normally, both boys and girls were educated, though not necessarily together. In a system much like the one that predominates in the modern world, the Roman educational system developed arranged schools in tiers. The educator Quintilian recognized the importance of starting education as early as possible, noting that, in quotations, memory, not only exists even in small children, but is specifically retentive at that age. Damn, bro knew. Bro knew. He knew about the squishy child brain. The squishy elastic child brain. A Roman student would progress through schools just as a student today might go from elementary school to middle school, then to high school, and finally to college. Progression depended more on ability than age, with great emphasis being placed upon a student's ingenium or inborn gift for learning. Whoa. And a more tactic emphasis on a student's ability to afford high level education. Or a tacit. Sorry, I said tactic, but this is taxit? Taxit? Tackit. Okay, no, it's taxit. Understood or implied. It's fucking tacit, like a tacit belief, and a more tacit emphasis on a student's ability to afford high level education. Only the Roman elite would expect a complete formal education. A tradesman or farmer would expect to pick up most of his vocational skills on the job. Higher education in Rome was more of a status symbol than a practical concern. So in Rome, where there's just a lot of dropouts, were there a lot of Kanye's, lot of college dropouts out here? Literacy rates in the Greco-Roman world were seldom more than 20%, averaging perhaps not much above 10% in the Roman Empire, though with wide regional variations, probably never rising above 5% in the Western provinces. The literate in classical Greece did not much exceed 5% of the population. What are modern literacy rates? What is 2026 US literacy rate? As of early 20, roughly 20% of 20% of the US adults are considered functionally illiterate, unable to complete basic reading tasks, with 54% reading below a 6th grade level. The national average literacy score is approximately, well, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what the highest, I don't know the scale of the, okay, New Hampshire holds the highest literary score, 278.9, while the lowest are found in New Mexico, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Low literacy levels cost the U.S. up to $2.2 trillion annually. God damn. Data indicates a decline in literacy, with 28% of adults ranking at the lowest proficiency level compared to 19% in 2017. Additionally, about 39% of 8th grade students read below the proficient level. So what have we learned today, guys? We've learned that you know literacy is hard. And literacy and education is for the elites, for the Epsteins. They need to learn literacy so that they can take advantage of our children. And yeah, education is not for you. Um, Go learn a trade or go learn how to make art or something. No, I'm joking. Education should be for everyone. Education is a very important aspect of our society. Even if most of us do not have as much access as we should to it. But that's what I'm trying to help with, just giving some time to read, providing a space for reading, providing a space for learning in such a fun way. So yeah, thank you for being here for me. Thank you for being here for me. Yes, thank you for being here for me emotionally and digitally. Um, Thank you for compelling me to want to read more and to increase my literacy. And ultimately, thank you for being on this journey of information with me. I hope we lead to somewhere beautiful, and I can't wait to do this more. I love you guys, and I'll see you later.